Everybody, welcome back to the Gen X Journey podcast. This is Steve, and I'm back with my good friends Keith and Noel. How you doing, guys?
Good,
Doing
good.
good, doing good. I'm excited about today.
Yeah. So when we first introduced the Gen X Journey podcast, we really sort of talked about we're going to visit nostalgia. We're going to visit our favorite music, movies, reminisce about the good old days. But we also wanted to talk about some important topics that we experience as we grow older as a generation. And today we're going to talk a lot about the empty nest syndrome. And now in this show, I will be the neutral party. My wife and I do not have kids, and we are aunts and uncles to a lot of our friends' children, and so we're very proud of that. But Keith and Noah both gone through this experience recently over the last couple of years, so
Mhm.
we know that their experiences are going to be very valuable today. But also, I want to have Noel introduce our special guest, who's going to be our expert on this topic. So, Noel, take it away.
Excellent. Well, today we are honored to have Shanna Gordy with us today, and Shanna and my wife Linda are in the same program, same MFT program together, and yeah, I'm extremely excited about this. And we were sharing with Shanna before we started recording that when we kind of reimagined the format for this podcast, we talked about having this specific episode because it's a topic that it's near and dear to Keith and I for sure, because we were just have gone through this and know the challenges that a lot of couples face. And so
Mhm.
we decided that this was the right time to do this because it's September, and a lot of people have just dropped off their kiddos and are experiencing the early stages of this right now. And so we figured like this is a great time to do this. And Shanna was uh, grateful enough, or what am I graceful? That's the wrong word.
Grateful's not it. We're
I am
grateful.
Grateful's not it.
grateful.
Great. She
Yes.
was. I was
Gracious.
really gracious. Thank you, Steve.
It's those words. We have a
This
hard
took
time with words.
yeah took four
Yeah.
takes, but we got there. She's gracious enough to join us today, and couldn't be more excited. So thank you very much. Really excited. So. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and experience in family and marriage therapy?
So I actually started my journey. I was a seventh grade language arts teacher, and then a stay-at-home mom myself. I went through a divorce in 2019, and so it's kind of a different phase of life. And I saw the impact that had on like my kids and myself, and the benefits that I and they both had from the therapeutic experience. And I said, like this is an opportunity for me to kind of start over. Like, what is it that I want to be when I grow up? I guess. And so
Mm-hmm.
this is my second career. I went back to school in my 40s to get my master's, and then I opened my practice a year ago. October will be a year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So
Yeah, congrats.
yeah, very excited. We're plugging along. So but really, I focus a lot on this phase of life transitions for adults, children's, teens, and various phases that they experience. So
Okay,
that's very near and dear to my heart personally.
awesome. I think I did this out of turn, so Keith, we may have to edit this too. But
We're good. Doesn't
um,
matter. Go with the flow.
Shannon, could you give the audience a little bit of introduction to yourself? Just tell us about your history and background. Like, what is your career? What do you specialize in?
So I focus a lot on transitions. Yeah, I work with adolescents into college into the workforce. I work with a lot of divorced families transitioning from marriage to singlehood to dating life. So I work in that area. I have several clients that are also transitioning from having kids at home to finding their place where they're supposed to be at. Empty nesters, I guess you could easily call them without putting a label on it.
Yeah, right.
um, so that's really kind of my focus. And of course, I throw in a couple little of kids in there just to keep it young and feisty. So
Good deal. What inspired you to specialize in helping families through major life transitions like empty nesting?
it was my own personal journey. I
Okay.
went through a divorce in 2019, and going through that, watching my kids who were 8 and 6 at the time, their experiences with that, and
Mm.
developing a relationship with their own therapist, my relationship with my own therapist, and seeing the impact that it had on them and me and the growth that we experienced, like that inspired me to want to do this for others, because I think that the need is great and it's out there, and this is kind of a niche that is kind of untapped, I guess you could say, but people
Awesome.
kind of minimize these experiences.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned you started your own practice almost a year ago. How would our listeners go about contacting you with further questions after today's episode?
So my website is memorialvillagewellness.com. I see clients virtually and in person. I'm actually located in the Spring Branch area of Houston, so
Okay.
kind of centrally located in Houston.
Awesome.
Very cool. Tell us a little bit about, can you give just a brief definition for those of us that may not be experiencing this or have experienced this? What in your opinion is the definition of emptiness syndrome, and really in your practice and what your experience is, how common is this? Is this, I have a lot of friends now that are dealing with it and they're like, are we alone in this? Tell us a little bit about your thoughts on the population at large with this.
So it's kind of an individual experience that each of my clients go through. They, depending on where they're at, what their involvement in the community is, what their involvement with their kids are, what their marital situation is, will really impact and influence the empty nest syndrome on their personal lives, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
For, I guess a broad definition would definitely be, a moment of loss, grief, and a sense of loneliness, of emptiness, I guess you could say,
Mm-hmm.
when children leave their family home and move on to whatever life has to bring them. So it could be college, career, whatever that looks like.
Right.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's what are some of the emotional challenges that you see that when you're talking to parents, what are they facing emotionally when their children are leaving home?
A lot of them, it's a feeling of loss and
Mm,
and loneliness and confusion. They don't, or just, what do we do?
Mm-hmm.
right.
Like, where do we go from here?
Yeah.
Half their, the last 20 years or 25 years, depending on the age of their children, was devoted to football practices, cheer practice, dance. And now all of
Hmm.
a sudden you've got this, what do we do? Where do we
Yeah.
go? Who do we talk to? What do we talk about? That's the other thing, is the connection with their partners. Like, what do we talk about? Who are you? Do I even know? you know,
Yeah.
I
so
told my wife I'm going to have to ask her her favorite color again.
it's true.
Yeah, that was sort of. I mean, my wife and I had our first child in 2002, and then our second child in 2004. And so my son went off to school last year in 2023, and so there was this between 2002 and 2023 where we were parenting, and our lives revolved around our kids and everything we did, and so there was like this, oh wait a second, who are you and what
Hmm.
are we, and like it's your identity changes overnight. And I know for me personally, there was a grieving process. Like it was a sense of loss. It was a sense of I had something important to me that isn't here anymore, and I want that back, and I long for it. And it's just, it's that grieving process. And then there was the sort of coming back into, that relationship with my wife, where it was like we're we're back together again, and hey, it's a good thing, you still like me and stuff, and you do still like me, right? Like, yeah, okay, good. And it's a weird kind of thing, but I mean, this is our second year now, and it's like it's night and day compared to where we were last year this time of year. We're just really embracing the whole, we're alone, and we've kind of developed our own life, outside of our kids again, and it's been amazing. And just kind of getting to know her, back to that relationship, but one-on-one kind of thing again. And boy, it sure is. We're celebrating 27 years tomorrow. We're recording on August 29th right now, but 27 years tomorrow, and it's amazing. Like it's a good thing. So I'm offering that sort of a story of encouragement for those that may be struggling right now. That it does get easier. Those early days are certainly tough. They were tough for me. I can't say for everybody, but they were certainly tough for us in making that transition. But there are brighter days ahead, and
Mhm.
it is a process, and it's good to have people like you that can Shanna, that can kind of help people through that whole process and stuff, because it's important to have somebody to talk to and can help them through that sometimes.
Yeah. I have a question. It's something that you alluded to earlier. So Noel and you and I, we have three different ways of having parented kids. Noel and Linda, as he's just said, is celebrating an anniversary and been a family with them as husband and wife their whole life. I don't know your situation currently, but I am a blended family. I've had a divorce and have had to raise kids of my own and also my spouse's. I would imagine that that affects things differently when you're dealing with parents and if they're blended families or if they're traditional families. How does it impact each sect, so to speak?
So blended families and your, I guess, natural family, I guess you could say,
A good
is
way to put
very
it.
similar in the effects that it has, watching the kids go off and then being able to reconnect with your partner and create that life after kids have left the home because you're
Mhm.
not parenting anybody. It's
Right.
really the most impactful. This is most impactful to single moms or single dads who have no support system or limit or a more limited support system at home. Whereas, Noel has Linda to lean on. If if I'm a single mom, doesn't have a partner to lean on. So
Right.
you kind of there's a little bit more of suffer in silence,
Hmm.
and it's a little so it adds a magnitude of loneliness, and so the risk factors for more significant depression increase for single parents.
I could see
Interesting.
that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's your lifeblood, really. I
Mhm.
mean, that is what you are
Yeah.
holding on to and the biggest fan of, and then that void comes. I can imagine the pain that has to, that's not necessarily the pain, but that emptiness and something that really you have to overcome. How do you help people cope with that in that position?
Well, so depending on, the level of depression that they're experiencing, we want to discuss, if it's significant, then you're obviously want to, recommend therapy and then seek psychiatric
Hmm.
support also,
Hmm.
Hmm.
because this can lead down a dark path for some people.
Sure.
If it is true empty nester syndrome, which is can go on anywhere from 2 weeks to a few months, depending on the person, obviously,
Hmm.
then we encourage developing a strong therapeutic alliance, and then focusing on the positive outcome and focusing on, rebuilding boundaries with your children for communication, developing interests that you have in common with your kids, like sharing a book. If you have a daughter who is reading something, you also want to read that book at home so you have something to discuss, something
Yeah.
along those lines, or if you're into college football and your son's in, going to LSU, you're jumping on that bandwagon, like
You better start becoming a fan of LSU football, right?
If you're with A&M and you've now been an LSU kid, like you're not an LSU fan.
That's true.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just about focusing on, transitioning those relationships and focusing on the positives, and then being able to have a support system at home, like your partner.
Mm.
Absolutely. And let me interject and say before we continue, I'm glad that we're having this conversation. But if you are having issues, remember, don't let this supplement or replace seeking the help that you need. Right. And I'll let you allude to this a little, Shannon, as the professional in this. But I want to make sure that we make this statement. Don't, if you are having that need of help, get somebody like Shanna to be able to counsel you. Don't let a podcast solve the problems. We just want to introduce ways to provide solutions for you. So I wanted to make sure that we said that.
Yep.
Yeah, it is a broad spectrum. You have, like I said, the initial true empty nester syndrome, and then you have it that leads into to severe depression. So it is a broad spectrum. So if you're falling anywhere on that, seeking additional counsel and additional help is always the first to go to.
Absolutely.
Nice. How can parents maintain a strong sense of identity and purpose after their children leave home? I mean, you talked about how their identities kind of become wrapped up in their children and in parenting them and the school practices and all that kind of stuff. How can they maintain a strong sense of identity after the kids are gone?
So for me, I typically encourage my clients to start doing a pre-empty nester kind of checklist, kind of check-in. Start talking to your partner about their interests. Start
Mhm.
talking to your friends. Start reconnecting, making those friendships. Look into your potential interests.
Mm.
Uh, Travel, where, work opportunities. Is this the career path that you want? Do you want to change careers? Is because this is an opportunity for you not just um, to reconnect with your partner, but it's also to kind of reconnect with yourself. So
Yeah.
it's starting that regime of self-care and putting yourself first, and then putting your partner first, and really figuring out who you are at this
Yep.
age and at this stage, because who you are when you got married and had children 25 years ago is not who you are today.
Yeah.
We hope you've evolved in some way, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Right. I think we all are hope that, we've gotten a little better over the years, right?
I would
Yes.
hope so. I would hope so. You mentioned communication a couple of times in there, and I know for my experience, like Lynn and I took, I don't know how many, we walk, like that was our exercise back, especially last year, we took a lot of long walks, and this was during the walks where we did a lot of our check-ins with each other, for better, lack of better words, like how you doing, how you feeling, what's going on, just this open dialogue that was, I think, really helped us, work our way through this. And I mean, there were a lot of difficult conversations sometimes, but I trust her, she trusts me. And so how important is, what role does communication play in then transition between parents and maybe their adult children as well?
So for parent to parent, communication is paramount. There's no other way. And I like that you mentioned that you and Linda would take walks, because actually walking is one of the easiest ways to open up communication, because you're not staring directly at your partner. So that
Mm-hmm.
awkwardness, especially if you haven't really communicated with your partner in a while with those hard conversations, is one of the best ways to get that going, to reignite
Yeah.
that conversation. So I love that y'all did that. I think that that's awesome. So gold star for y'all. For building that. But it's also not being afraid to ask the hard questions,
Yeah.
what do you want? And then
Mm-hmm.
being honest and candid, and not being passive aggressive, and telling your partner, this is what I want. Um, this is what I want to do. So I think as far as partner to partner, communication is paramount. You can't, there's no substitute. Just as easily as you can when your kids are at home, you can grow apart without communication. It can also happen, whenever there are no kids at home.
Yep.
So, and it
Yep.
has
For
to be,
sure.
and it does have to be intentional, going home and watching TV, and, your wife or husband playing on the phone, that's obviously not going to lead to success. So it has to be
Right.
intentional time, like a walk.
Right.
So
Right. What about
communication.
the role between parents and their adult kids too, and the communication?
So I think that there's a transition there that parents really have to accept, which I think is one of the hardest things. Is that's a role from parenting and being the teacher to someone who is a listener, and allowing the children to come to us as opposed to
Mm.
us telling them how to live their lives, and then creating communication boundaries. What are your expectations? You're a freshman in college. I would like a phone call on Sundays. It would really be nice just to check in, or but I think establishing those boundaries are also really important. So that way there's no unmet expectation or assumptions that are made. So I think
Mm.
just it's important with partner to partner to be clear on what you want as a parent. Your children also have to say what they want and what's acceptable to them, to where the parent's not being intrusive and is
Yeah.
allowing them to grow.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good stuff. Real good.
Very good. So, Shanna, how does empty nesting typically affect the marital relationship?
Well, it can in many different ways. I mean, there's a lot of myths that say that the moment kids leave the house, that your marriage is doomed, or that it's going to be, this horrible. Everyone's going to be sad. Everyone, it's going to be this horrible uphill battle, and that's not the case for everybody. There are cases where marriages do deteriorate. I There are also cases, I think the majority of the cases, it's an opportunity for married people who take that opportunity to come closer together and to rebuild the intimacy and the communication that was lost. Um, so I don't think that it's detrimental to marriages. That is a myth, and it's not as common as what people think. So they also believe that they're supposed to be sad, and that's not the case either. There are many people that I've seen personally that are like, yes, deuces, like
I know people like that. I know
like,
people like that. One of my best friends was like, it took us 10 minutes to get over him, and that was it. I was like, wow, all right, well, that's great.
like I'm out. I've been buying 6 plane tickets to go to
Yeah.
like theme park and
Totally.
I've got a whole story about that happened last night. I don't even want to go there yet.
Yeah.
So really, I mean, the myth of like things being sad, or
Yeah.
that it really is case by case. There's not really a generalization you can make.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. So, we touched this topic just a little bit, but what are some ways couples can strengthen their relationship during this time?
So it's rebuilding communication, obviously, developing hobbies, interests together, finding out who they are and what they want. It's recommended that it's wonderful if you want to take up running or whatever your hobby is going to be, but they recommend not doing, at least having one specific interest shared with your partner. So
Okay.
whatever that is. So if it's gardening, if it's cooking, then that's something that y'all dedicate just to the two of you that you can grow in together. And then
Nice.
whatever other hobbies and interests that you have, I think it's great. Like my grandparents, I remember when my grandfather, I thought he was going to lose it whenever he retired. Big corporate guy, and so my grandmother was a stay-at-home mom, and she was like, I can't have you in the house all the time. So he became a candy striper at MD Anderson way back when.
That works.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I bet that is tricky. I mean,
it is.
yeah, I
she
mean,
took
because you're wondering, do I need to spend all the time? It's
Yeah.
it's a weird because do I need to
that
like
balance.
just focus all my attention on you now, or what do we do? And I don't want you to think I'm neglecting you. It's that's a fine line. It really is.
Yeah.
It is. So they
Yeah.
just recommend, like one common interest. Like I said, my grandparents, they took up, my grandfather was an avid golfer, but she took up golfing. And so they started doing that together and would do these travels golfing
Awesome.
together. But then they had their separate things. So that's the recommendation, is just having one common interest that kind of builds y'all together, that you grow it.
And Shanna gave us the perfect segue to plug our upcoming episode about pickleball.
That's right.
So
it's almost like we're doing this on purpose.
It's like we planned it. But
Silky segue there, Noel.
Yeah.
See? Yeah. So we interrupt this episode to plug our next episode. Anyway, go ahead.
I love it.
Very popular right now.
Do you play pickleball, Shanna?
I don't.
Man.
Yeah. That's the hobby that Lynn and I've picked up together. That's one of the things we've decided to we're doing, and it's a lot of fun. It's kind of humiliating sometimes because we play against people that are probably 15, 20 years older than us, and they're just kicking our tail. But I digress. It's fun. We still have fun. Anyway.
That's what y'all are growing together, doing it together. That's what's important, Y'all are laughing together, you have a good time.
Together.
Yeah, lunch after, why not?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that's important too, is to continue to develop friendships and relationships amongst. Even what's your thought? I'd like to hear relationships, and I'm going off script here, so sorry. That's what I do. They should have warned you about me, but the being able to develop relationships with other peers your age in those circles as couples. Walk us through how important that is to develop, interpersonal relationships as couples and also as individuals when you're going through this time of transition without children.
No, it's also very important. I've talked a lot about like the partnership relationship, but your relationships with your friends and your peers equally as important.
Mm-hmm.
It's just as strong of a support system that you need to get through these times, but also to grow and to discuss ideas, hopes, dreams, goals. Maybe things that you haven't thought of. But also, like I said, developing those friendships that will carry you through the next chapter and the next phases of your life.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah, that's great. So, Shanna, what advice do you have for parents who may experience differing emotional reactions to empty nesting?
The dad's like, "Woohoo, see ya,"
I
and
got
the
the place to
mom's,
myself now.
"It's right."
Yeah,
The
I
mom,
mean, it's the same thing with anything else. It's patience, and communication. Communication
Mm-hmm.
is paramount. Knowing where your wife is, knowing where your husband is, and understanding and being empathetic and truly listening to your partner and what their needs are in that moment. If you have a husband that is bawling every night because he just absolutely misses his daughter or his
yeah,
son, and your wife is like, I'm out, like, she needs to be an empathetic listener and try to be in that moment with him and be compassionate.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
It's great advice. So, this topic is really maybe, well, it's directly related to those parents out there that they're they have a junior or a senior at home. They're either looking at which colleges they want to attend, or they've made that decision. Now it's their senior year as a home stretch. So, what steps can parents take in the years leading up to empty nesting to better prepare themselves emotionally and practically?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it is really about like starting that communication and start to rebuild the connection with your partner. If you're in a married situation, if you are a single parent, it would be building, starting to build that network with your colleagues or friends that you have. Have communication, voice your concerns about, what am I going to do when so and so goes off to school or moves out and starts working. Start setting some goals for yourself, start brainstorming some interests and some ideas. It's just kind of pre plan for that moment when they are gone and anticipate, that it's going to be sad, but also anticipate like this could be the best time of my life. So, because you
Right.
don't know, you can't predict how you're going to feel in those moments. We
Right.
can all say, but I think it's just preparing for both and start, thinking, taking care of yourself and making sure that you're making yourself a priority. Because by then, I mean, you're talking about a 17, 18-year-old child who's, not a child, an adolescent, a teen, an adult who's already kind of doing their own thing. So you do have some time to start saying, okay, this is what I want. This is where I want to be. These are the goals that I have for
Yeah.
myself.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, following up on that, so how important is it for parents to cultivate interest in activities outside their parenting roles before their child goes off to school?
I think that it's to start having, I think it's important once to start having to exploring those ideas and those thoughts prior to them going to college. Because, like I said, it takes away some of the initial sting of they're gone. I've dropped them off at college or wherever, and now it's quiet. And I think it's the
Mm-hmm.
quiet that gets to most people. It's not the day-to-day
Oh yeah.
noise; it's the
Yeah. Yeah.
silence,
Yeah.
and it's an eerie silence that you don't really you can't prepare yourself for. So it's
Definitely.
I think setting that
Mm.
expectation.
Yep. Yeah. That
Now we
quiet
now we enjoy the
bothers me.
silence, but before we did.
Well, yeah. Yeah, that was the worst part for me. The
Me too.
upstairs was where our kids' bedrooms were upstairs, and I avoided going upstairs like the plague just because it was so just empty. Like
It's a
it was a
reminder, right?
reminder. Like, yeah, it's real. Like they're really really gone, and it was a weird moment. I was doing fine. I think it was like the second day that my son was off, and it was weird. I was like, had a good day. It was like, I was all right and stuff. And then I went to like at night before I went to bed, I went and locked the door, to the garage, and just locking the door made it all like come right back. Cause there was a reminder, like there's nobody coming home like Tyler's not out and he's coming home later on, like he's not getting
Yeah.
back and stuff. And it was a sucker punch right to the stomach. But it's weird moments like that, but that kind of hit you, but it's a, it's a tough phase, but it's also what's best for them. It's what's best for the kids. It's best for them to be out and be independent and grow apart from you and kind of get their own lives and find their own way. And it's a tough transition, but it's what's best for them. It's best for us and stuff. But it's no fun while you're going through it. That's for sure. So
Fine line between wanting your children to succeed in the way you've been praying for and then not letting go.
yeah,
Two
100%.
different things.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's the design. They're supposed to,
Yeah.
leave and start their own families, and then
Yeah.
that's the whole goal, right? Is to
Yeah.
do the best you can to make them the best people that we possibly can, so they can go into the world and
Yeah.
make a difference, be better.
Yeah.
Yep.
Totally.
Shanna, are there any resources such as books, support groups, things like that you would recommend for parents that are going through this transition besides this podcast, obviously, for help?
Yeah. So a lot of like local churches and
Yeah.
community centers will definitely have empty nester support. A couple of books that I like, I did write them down. I forgot my authors though. I always forget my authors. I'm sorry.
Don't worry. We'll
all
follow
right.
up in the show notes too, Shannon. Don't worry about it.
I'm the worst. I am the worst.
That's okay. We'll put links to these in the show notes.
Yeah. So Guide to Empty Nest. I like that one a lot.
Okay.
And From Mom to Me Again. I like that one a lot.
Oh,
Okay.
That's a cool title. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I like that. So those are my two go-tos. The little more real. And then, they also connect with moms, and moms are at a higher risk than dads, not to take anything away from the gentlemen, but
Oh no.
moms are at a higher risk, single parents, and parents with only children are at like a higher risk
Oh,
for.
I believe that. Yeah.
I bet so. If we're kind of wrapping up here, if you could give one piece of advice to parents about that are about to enter the empty nest phase, what would that be?
Stay positive. Focus on
Good.
this being an opportunity for growth within your relationship with your partner, your friends, your children. This isn't taking your babies away. This is just watching them grow, just that next step, and being who we've always wanted them to be, and see the potential that they have. So,
Good.
and it's truly a gift and an awesome opportunity for all of us to see that in our kids.
Excellent. Where can listeners find more information or connect with you for further guidance? I know we've had a good 34 minutes here, but I'm sure there's probably people out there that are listening to this that have their own questions and things that we didn't cover today. But so how could they get in touch with you and if they need some more support?
Yeah, through my website, I see people virtually and in person. My website is memorialvillagewellness.com, and I'm able to assist, like I said, virtually and in person. So
that's great. That virtual side of things is a big deal. That's really cool. Technology's really made opportunities to get help. It opens things up. There's a lot of people who are, in my opinion, who are timid and don't want to walk through a door. And I think this gives somebody. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Shanna. Go ahead.
Oh no, I said it's true. It is intimidating for a lot of people, and I do work on a sliding scale. So then, because I know the need is great in all socioeconomic backgrounds, so I try to meet the needs of my clients.
Good.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
memorialvillagewellness.com. So, Shanna, thank you so much for today. Thank you for taking the time to share some of your experience and your knowledge and everything with the listeners. I think your advice is awesome. It's great. I hope this is helpful for everybody and listeners. If you'd like to get in touch with Shanna Gordy, her website is memorialvillagewellness.com. She's based in the Houston area, but can meet with you virtually if you'd like to meet with her virtually. And sure has been great talking to you, Shanna. And
yes, thank you.
Thanks again.
Excellent. Yeah,
thank y'all so much for having me.
Oh, we're really
Absolutely.
grateful to have you on. And hey, there's probably other topics. We may have to snag you again. You've been great.
You bet. Yeah,
That's your
awesome, John.
fault for being so good. So just
punishment is you can spend more time with us.
that's right. Lucky you. Lucky you.
Awesome.
And
All
that
right.
being said, to our listeners, if there are other topics that are of importance to you, that's what we're here for. We're really excited to change the format of this program, not to just talk about history and nostalgia, but what's important to you today and tomorrow. And this is the first episode that we've had that's really starting to address those more important topics. And we're excited to do this. We're grateful to have people like Shanna that can come on and provide some really great support. So if there are other things that you are wanting to learn about or wanting to ask questions about, please reach out to us. Join us with our social media on Facebook, on Instagram, X, Threads, wherever. Just give us a shout in the comments if you're watching this in YouTube, and give us some ideas of things that you'd like to uncover. And we really appreciate each of you listening. Please subscribe to our channel, hit that like button, hit the bell so you can be alerted to other episodes that we hope are important and impactful for you. And that concludes this episode of the Gen X Journey. So thanks again, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.